Welcome back. It's time for the business news, and for that we're joined by William Edwards. William, no surprise that we're looking at this fiscal cliff, but just remind us, because we're talking so much about the bill that has been passed, but certainly the finer details that will affect middle-class Americans and for the better, really.
Well, yes, a tax rise for the vast majority of middle-class Americans has been avoided. There will, of course, be some tax rises. Individuals earning over $400,000, they will face a rise. Of course, President Obama wanted that number to be low. He wanted all those earning above $250,000 to get a tax rise, so he had to give some ground there. Also, there hasn't been much reaction to this, surprisingly, but payroll taxes will go up back to 6.2% from just 4.2%, and that will affect pretty much everyone with a job. If you're earning around $50,000, that will take you around $1,000 out of your income in 2013. So that's across the board. Both parties, though, not really trying to fight against that rise. This will really have quite an effect on Americans, despite having avoided this fiscal cliff.
Now, it seems good for now, but certainly the negotiations that lie ahead, especially with that 2-month delay on those spending cuts, that's surely going to cause some tension.
Exactly, because they've just put off the most difficult bits, perhaps. I mean, the spending cuts negotiations will be very controversial. What we've just had, this deal this morning, dealt only with the tax rate issues. There's also the issue of the debt ceiling, which will be rearing its ugly head again in just a couple of months, as Catherine Viette explains.
Congress may have prevented the U.S. economy from falling over the so-called fiscal cliff, but the bill it passed has done little to rein in the huge annual budget deficits that have helped push the U.S. debt to $16.4 trillion.
We've taken care of the revenue side of this debate, and now it's time to get serious about reducing Washington's out-of-control spending.
Congress will have to decide what to do about the sequester, automatic spending cuts, which will come up again in February, as well as decide in March on whether to increase the federal borrowing limit. On Tuesday, the U.S. president said he won't bargain with Congress over raising the debt ceiling.
Year, everybody. While I will negotiate over many things, I will not have another debate with this Congress over whether or not they should pay the bills that they've already racked up through the laws that they passed. Let me repeat. We can't not pay bills that we've already incurred.
Many House Republicans say they will push hard for cuts to government entitlement programs like Social Security and Medicare.
Entitlement reform is the only way that we are going to successfully get our arms around this massive now I guess it's $16.25 trillion national debt that is there.
As Democrats and Republicans prepare to get back in the ring to hash out reforms to the tax code and spending cuts, one thing's certain: more fireworks can be expected.
So what all economists want to know, how are the markets reacting to this fiscal cliff aversion?
Well, they're just opening up here in Europe, and you'll be unsurprised to hear that things are positive at the moment. You can see that across the board, big gains across all the major markets. Even French car makers, in fact, are rising, despite figures just out that French car sales down 13.9% last year as a whole. They're worst since 1997. But as you can see, the positive sentiment lifting everything there. Let's take a look at Asia as well. The Nikkei in Tokyo and the Shanghai Composite are closed for holidays, but the Kospi and the Hang Seng, you can see, also registering large gains there. And just some news from Asia while we're there. Macau, gambling, of course, big centre for that, bigger than Vegas, more than 4 times bigger, and they are up 13.8% for 2012 overall trading.
Good boost for them. Well, let's just veer off the fiscal cliff aversion of the markets there for a moment and look at a heist that happened here in Paris on New Year's Eve, but it was at the Apple Store.
Yes, at the Apple Store right next to the Paris Opera, and it sounds pretty professional. The thieves waited until 9 p.m. on New Year's Eve when obviously police attention was focused on the Champs-Elysees, where huge crowds were gathering to welcome in the new year. And 4 masked men forced their way into the store and escaped in a van afterwards with, well, there are unconfirmed reports that more than €1 million of goods have been stolen. So obviously Apple stores do get targeted relatively often, but not in that sort of
In
scale.
that sort of scale, yes, absolutely. Well, keeping with New Year's Eve and moving to something a little bit more romantic, but with the business twist, the sending of text messages, but it's not as popular as it used to be, essentially.
No, still more than 1 billion text messages sent
lot.
just in France, actually, on New Year's Eve itself. Obviously, the busiest time of the year for mobile operators, but still, it's not expected to. Final figures are coming out today. Not expected to surpass the all-time record of 1.13 billion. Text messages for the night. Operators say they'd expected more, actually. But this seems to be linked to the rise of smartphones. Now, the fact is you can use Facebook or send an email for free, effectively, if you're already paying for it anyway in your contract. Whereas text messages, a lot of people have to pay for those, each individual one. And from operators, they are a big profit center because for the amount of data you send, you spend quite a lot. So the decline in text messages could see profits hit for mobile network operators.
Well, I was certainly one of those people sending the free online Facebook message. I don't know about you. Well, next we'll often hear about disputes over gas prices between Eastern European countries and Gazprom at this time of year. But in 2013, that's all changed. The Russian company has been pressured into lowering its prices by a combination of factors, including an EU investigation into the legality of its contracts. Well, France 24's Gulliver Cragg has sent this report from Poland.
Polish winters are cold. So for the million or so Polish families who have gas-powered heating, a 10% price cut is significant. Yet according to Wojciech Derwinski, who aside from heating his own home with gas, advises others on how to make savings, the reaction has been lukewarm.
At least this year they won't be putting the prices up. And in fact, they'll be going down a bit. That's always nice. But I think everyone wishes the cuts were rather bigger.
Poland's Treasury Ministry nevertheless hopes its Christmas present to the people will prove a political hit.
10%, this is a drop of price for 20 million people, Polish citizens. This is very remarkable, I would say.
The price cut is thanks to a deal with Gazprom. The Russian monopolist has reduced the price Poland pays for its gas from around $575 per 1,000 cubic meters to around 450, according to the minister. Other EU countries have also won cuts. Gazprom's oil index prices had simply risen way higher than market rates. Warsaw threatened legal action backed by an antitrust inquiry into the Russians from the European Commission. Now, with prices comparable to those paid by Western European firms, Poland's gas company PGNiG is in a position to trade on the new gas exchange launched at the Warsaw stock market last month. It also has money available to push for development of Poland's own shale gas resources.
We have a few years to really verify the amount of shale gas, the amount of gas that we can develop and produce in Poland. If we are capable of finding domestic sources for gas, then we shall see.
Gazprom can no longer take the Central European market for granted.
Well, let's look at the airline industry now, where it seems that India's Kingfisher Airlines might be grounded for good.
Well, it's been grounded, in fact, since October when it started, staff walked out over unpaid wages, and airports and fuel suppliers have also been left out of pocket by millions of dollars. Now, India's aviation regulator says the company's license won't be renewed because it's not clear where new funds will come from. The company says it's in talks with Etihad Airlines about new funding, and it's confident it will get its license back, but that does seem quite a long shot.
Absolutely. Well, in a change of status, we're going to look finally just at Russians, and they woke up to beer changing officially its status from foodstuff onwards.
Yes, if Russians were wondering why they had a hangover on New Year's morning, well, previously, anything less than 10% alcohol was classed as food, if you can believe it. It has now been changed legally in the eyes of the law to be alcohol, meaning it can't be sold in certain places, and there will be restrictions on advertising and sales times. Now beer is alcoholic in Russia.
Well, we wonder will that change the consumption levels. Thanks for that business update. Do stay tuned to France 24.